Welcome to the First Things First podcast. And first things first, we need you to subscribe and leave comments, letting us know what you think of the show. We're listening. I'm Nick Wright, joined by two of my favorite people, Jenna Wolf, Chris Carter. Now, let's get the show started.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday.
You got it.
Close. Oh, we're getting close.
We are very
Super Bowl
close.
52. Look at
Super
right
Bowl
there.
52.
There we go. We got the Duke.
He's so excited. That's just
New England,
like
Philadelphia. I mean, when you're the
excited,
commissioner,
Cece.
they put your name on the football. I mean, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good gig.
Sure. Among the other benefits of being the commissioner, one is you do get your name on the Super Bowl.
Another is you get to have super secret meetings, maybe with our Chris Carter. Maybe that we'll talk about later.
It's very cool. That is very
Those
cool.
things.
Well,
So now who we know the players are. You are Chris Carter. You are Nick Wright. We are First Things First. And we're
Yep.
getting excited for a big football game on Sunday.
Big football game, huge NBA trade last night, which
Big
we're
one
going
to
to get
talk
to in
about.
a moment.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot to do today.
All right, so let's dive in. We are less than just under 8,000 minutes away from the start of Super Bowl Sunday. I counted all of them. Yesterday was Media Day, so yesterday was a chance for anyone with a microphone and a media badge to ask literally everything and anything. And we're going to hear some of the good stuff throughout the week. Patriots owner Robert Kraft spoke to the media. He was asked about how special this recent Patriot run is. Take a listen.
If you play well, you play a harder schedule. Your free agents are sought after. You're drafting lower. So you really have to work very hard to remain strong and good. And part of it, it's collecting good people, but it's having continuity in a system and people.
Cece, what do you think? Are we ever going to see in any of our lifetimes a dynasty like the New England Patriots ever again?
it's going to be very difficult. The impossible is possible in sports. Their ability to be able to keep the key components together for a long period of time, that being the owner, Belichick, and Brady, but they only got a few other guys that have been there more than 6 or 7 years. So he's done it with so many different groups of people, not with a couple different groups. And the thing that I think is amazing about New England with Bill Belichick and growing up in the NFC East, where he did with the New York Giants. I was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. We played against them twice a year. So knowing his defense and knowing his mindset, just how his personality has changed over the years, how he's so offensive aggressive, how he throws the ball more than at any other time that coaching. So those things are very, very surprising, but they also lead to why they've been great with Belichick. He's made adjustments, and Tom Brady's been able to have the type of career there, absent of the one injury, that we're not going to be able to see. So I don't expect to have the type of continuity that Mr. Kraft, Belichick, Brady with the consistency. It's just hard to duplicate that. Guys are into their brand. Guys are into social media. Guys are not into trying to let a coach mold them for a long period of time, because eventually it's like this: I won a Super Bowl, but now I want to get paid. So guys are more anxious to leave, a place like that, especially after you've had some individual or team success as far as a Super Bowl. That time is trying to take care of your family and try to make as much money as possible. So I don't see this happening. And what they've done, and Mr. Kraft, he personally told me this, he's really addicted to winning. He's established in Israel a football league. There's a women's league, but there's also a youth football league. They have the only NFL regulation football field in the Middle East. He dedicated it this summer. His women's team is nationally ranked. He said he's not going to be happy until they win a world title. I'm like, man, what
else do you want?
He's like, Chris, I really like winning, and I like being in first. And right now, that's what we're addicted to in New England.
So if we're going to see something again that we'd never seen before, I think it's probably instructive usually to see, all right, well, if no one's ever done what the Patriots have done, but how close have teams come? Are the Patriots just a little bit better than the next second best dynasty, or are they far and away the best? And they are far and away better than anything we'd seen in the 98-year history of this league. Just for some context, right? So one of the great dynasties is the Dallas Cowboys. Troy, Emmett, Michael, our friend Moose Johnston, Leon Lett, you can go down the list, right? They won 3 in 4 years. The Patriots, if they win Sunday during this dynasty, will have won 3 in 4 years, 2 separate times. How about things, though, other than just winning the Super Bowl? Just sustained excellence with no dips. The NFL record for most consecutive seasons above 500 is held by the New England Patriots. The NFL record for most consecutive 11-win seasons is held by the New England Patriots. 12-win seasons, it's held by the New England Patriots. 13-win seasons, it's held by the New England Patriots. 14-win seasons, it's held by the New England Patriots. And the NFL record for most consecutive playoff appearances is held by the New England Patriots, all in this Brady-Belichick era. And if I can add one more jarring number, if the Pats win on Sunday, it will be their 6th Super Bowl. The following teams have a combined 7 Super Bowls: Saints, Bucks, Jets, Bears, Chiefs, Seahawks, Rams, Texans, Jags, Lions, Browns, Cardinals, Titans, Chargers, Panthers, Falcons, Bengals, Bills, Vikings, Eagles.
It's amazing.
That's 20 teams.
That's amazing.
In a 32-team league, those 20 teams have combined for 7.
And the Patriots,
if they win Sunday, will be at 6, just with the Brady-Belichick combo.
6.
yeah.
It's unbelievable.
New England will join them with 6.
I think oftentimes when you talk about a dynasty like that, it tends to rub people the wrong way a little bit. And we do this with the Warriors. Do we like these super teams? Do we like a team to win consistently? Do we like a team where we know that, for the most part, the odds are their favored for them to be out there winning week in and week out? But there's something about this New England Patriots team that's fun to watch, that other teams, other coaches try to at least pull from a little bit of their game plan, that players look at what Brady's done and say, well, can I pull from what he's done? They want to be a little bit more like them. And I'm wondering, CC, as a player, are you enjoying watching this run? Are you enjoying watching this dynasty? Is it good for the sport of football?
I enjoy watching excellence at any level. I don't care if it's a play. I don't care if it's a movie. I don't care if it's a concert, a comedian. Like excellence, it should be acknowledged and enjoyed. I mean, people that have talent in the entertainment business, yes, that's what they're here for. To me, I've been a broadcaster throughout this run. So I'm a fan of football. I have to be careful in watching the games. I enjoy watching New England play because I enjoy people doing things the right way. The reason why this dynasty is so different is they've done it absent of great players. Like, if you look through that 18 years, you name me 5 Hall of Famers. Like, you talk about the dynasties, Pittsburgh, 2 dynasties, with
Hall
Terry
of Famers
and
all up and down the road.
If we go to San Francisco, Joe and all those, bunch of guys in the Hall.
And
Dallas, bunch of guys in the Hall. With Tom Brady, you tell me 4 Hall of Famers that they're going to have over this career, and I'm going to give you 2 of them, Belichick and Brady.
And the other notable ones weren't there, were only there for a championship or a couple seasons. Randy's a Hall of Famer. Darrelle Revis will be a Hall of Famer. Ty Law is a fringe guy. Richard Seymour was there in the beginning. Like, there's not...
Were they Hall of Famers when the Patriots got them?
Okay, I see what you mean. As opposed to so Randy was obviously...
No, he wasn't. He was just coming off of Oakland.
Oh, okay, you're right. So he wouldn't have been, if he had retired at that moment.
Belichick resurrected his career.
You're right. You're right. The Oakland part you almost forget about.
Right. Now, Darrelle Revis, you might say, yes, he was a Hall of Famer, but he was on the downside of his talent
And
level.
He was a one-year rental. To answer, though, Jenna, I think people probably think I don't like the Patriots. I can get frustrated by them. CeCe's able to be more...
But why, though?
Because, I was about to explain it. Because CeCe's able to be more agnostic as a football fan, just love good football. I'm still a fan of my team. I'm still a fan of the Chiefs. I can cover the league, but I try to be honest with the audience. I still on Sundays root. So it's tough if you're a fan of any team other than the Patriots to not have a little bitterness towards them. But I want to encourage the audience to do something. I want to encourage the audience to do what I did yesterday and watch, as silly as I thought it was going to be, this Tom versus Time thing.
On Facebook?
On Facebook. CeCe, the episode 2, where they show it was Tom versus, it was the mental part of the game, the mental battle. They show this. He's working with Tom House.
Yes. Is
this quarterback's coach.
Yes. He works with a bunch of quarterbacks on their overall technique, throwing motion. He's really into the mechanics of throwing.
The mechanic.
It's no different than having a swing coach in golf.
This is one of the most remarkable things, and from what I've learned from you, you're probably going to tell me this is what the great athletes do.
Yes.
But we don't usually get to see it. To see a guy, this is in the summer coming off their 5th championship, where he's submitted himself as the greatest quarterback ever. And he is, I know you got to work out. I know you got to go practice. I know you got to watch film. But the tweaking of the fundamentals and having this guy bark at him, that's no good. Like, that to me that can inspire you no matter your field. Because no matter how good you think you are, there's room to improve. Watching that made me more of a fan. Like, it's if that was the objective of the series, it's working.
It's nice that you can reach out and touch them, but we've been doing workouts like that for over 20 years. You know, I had a company that did workouts just like that. My man Tony Villani and Bill Welly, they still run a company. They work out exactly like that today.
That's what you do with Larry in the summer?
Yes. If Larry Fitzgerald decides to come back another season in Arizona, this summer he will call a handful of guys, myself, Michael Irvin, Jerry Rice, also NFL coaches that he's played with. He will have them come to Minneapolis and do a lot of the same very things that we're seeing Tom Brady. It's nice to look because I don't think people appreciate how hard it is mentally to be able to duplicate success and to keep yourself motivated. And it's all technique. It's not about all talent. It's all about technique, and it's a great thing to do. It's a great learning tool, and it brings you up close and personal of how much you have to sacrifice to really be great.
Welcome back to First Things First. Chris Canty is here.
Hey, now.
So he wouldn't throw the ball to us, Chris.
He's not going to throw it to Nick. He'll throw it to me. He's not going to throw it to Nick. Nick don't know nothing about that.
No, they can't catch.
No,
they can't catch.
Wow. Chris, we can catch.
No, he's got the other ball.
Listen,
he's got the basketball.
This guy played
I don't know where you were going.
You played tight end in high school, so you have some catch experience. I understand it. I get it. There's no bitterness there. I mean, you could have tossed me the ball in the last segment, but it's all right. I'm not mad. It's all good.
You're not here for that.
Okay. That is a fair point.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not here for that,
and you're talking about your kids the last segment. If I throw it, hit you in the nose, you bleed to death.
Oh, wow.
You know what? Another good point by you, sir.
All right.
Savage, CC. Savage.
I mean, I got a big nose,
Savage. On Tuesday,
but I got hands to
Tuesday
protect
morning.
We are focusing again on the Patriots this morning. Brady and Belichick are preparing for the 8th Super Bowl as a tandem. However, one coach had some disparaging comments to say about the duo. Steve Spagnuolo, who served as the linebackers coach for the Eagles when they played the Pats in Super Bowl in 2005, accused them of stealing signals during the game. Take a listen to this.
And I remember through the course of the game, Jim saying, they're getting our signals. They know when we're blitzing. They're getting our signals, try to hide it, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember distinctly thinking, Jim, I don't think that's true. Now, I'm not saying this to him because I don't want to upset him, but I'm saying to myself, I don't think so, Jim. Just concentrate on, calling the game. But he, in hindsight, he was right. When you go back and look at that tape, it was evident to us. I'm not crying over spilt milk here, but we believe that Tom knew when we were pressuring, because he certainly got the ball out pretty quick. But, you got to play the game, and they won that particular day. But there's no question, I wasn't going to let that happen in the 08 Super Bowl after the 07 season. We made sure we had 2 signal callers, and we were protecting against that.
First of all, that's the exact definition of crying over spilled milk. Yeah. Okay, that's actually what crying over spilled milk is.
Exactly.
Like,
come on, Spags.
Complaining about it, and we saw it happen. First of all, what was the reason for bringing it up now if it just sort of gets legs and moves forward? But do you think that the stigma of cheating is always going to follow the New England Patriots around as long as they continue to be successful?
No, I don't think so. I think Deflategate and Spygate will ultimately amount to footnotes when you start reflecting on the legacy of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in this 17-year run that they've had. Because I don't think that you can point to any of those specific incidents and say definitively that it changed the outcome of their seasons, or you can say that they wouldn't have the 5 championships. Now, speaking from experience as a player that came into this league in the early 2000s, that was par for the course in terms of videotaping opposing teams' walkthroughs and practices and stealing signals. I mean, there are teams out there that are still doing that. So it just so happens that the Patriots were one of the teams that got caught. Now, as far as Deflategate is concerned, in 2014, I can understand people saying, okay, they had the best ball security in the league. They didn't turn it over a whole lot. But I don't think that had anything to do with what they did in the AFC Championship game to the Indianapolis Colts. It didn't have anything to do with Darrell Bevell making that play call on 2nd and 1 to throw the ball rather than hand it off to Marshawn Lynch when you got the ball on the 1-yard line and a timeout in your back pocket. So does that change the Patriots Super Bowl run in Super Bowl 49? I don't think it does. So I'm looking at the whole body of work, and I'm just saying this is greatness. Now, teams are always going to be looking to try to get a competitive advantage in the NFL. That's just the way of the world because there's so much at stake. But I don't think it changes their legacy in terms of appreciating what they've been able to do.
Yeah, I believe there's a tremendous amount of gamesmanship and there's a tremendous amount of information that's on the field. I have stole or swiped people's signals on the field. The safeties, the corners, the defensive back coach, the defensive coordinator. Yes, I would look over to the sideline. I would know what their signals were, and I would try to figure them out. I would get what their signals were. I would hear what their calls were. And eventually, I would be able to know based on what it said in years playing in the league. When I played against Green Bay twice a year, Detroit twice a year, Chicago twice a year, I'm not only reading the information of the players in their body language, but there's a certain amount of gamesmanship to being a great player that you read stuff. If the safety yells sky to the corner, I'm saying, listen, bro, it's going to be a safety support. The corner's probably either going to play me man or he's going to go off and play cover 3 or cover 1. So there are a lot of things that go on during the game that the Patriots are doing that are just like other teams. And if he brought it up to the late, great Jim Johnson, why didn't they have someone else doing the signals? And to me, there's not enough time between the snaps if they read your signal and you get it in the quarterback's head because it's cut off at a certain time. So there's adjustments. New England's offense has a lot of built-in hots and a lot of short throws. So when you blitz, it's like they know you're blitzing, because they have something built in. So it is crying over spilled milk. It is a normal NFL practice for players and coaches to try to look at the signal callers and try to match up what they signal and with the Polaroid information that we have on the sideline and with the computer readout. So there's a certain amount of intel you get every game day that you're trying to benefit from. It's no different than the second baseman. If I hit a double, I'm in baseball, I'm on second base, someone's at bat, I'm not going to get a big of lead so I can look at the catcher even to make him nervous, but also to try to pick up the signals. Those are parts of the game that will never change.
Isn't that different than having practices, opposing practices, filmed, taped, recorded?
I'm going to draw a major distinction between what Steve Spagnuolo is talking about.
They're not in the same family.
Right. Agreed.
They were guilty of that.
Correct.
So that's what I want to talk about. So, what Steve Spagnuolo is talking about is not against the rules. In fact, I would argue that if you have the ability within a game to figure out tells, whether it's a poker, baseball, whatever it is, you of course should try to get every legal competitive advantage you can. If you can, when you were describing me before the show, Sky, you're like, okay, when it's a one-word call, usually it's either the first letter of the word or you can figure it out over the course of a game.
Listen, they got a bunch of dumb guys, no offense to you, over there playing defense.
Right.
Okay, the guys on offense are a lot smarter. For us to be able to figure out what their signals and calls are, it is not that complicated.
And part of the edge is having smart players, having guys that can pick up information, or having smart enough players where you can have really complicated play calls or whatever it is. So what Spagnuolo is talking about, to me, is in a totally different universe than the two things you mentioned, Deflategate and Spygate. Now, do I think they still win that Super Bowl with or without deflated footballs? Of course. But just because you didn't need...
Yeah, they actually changed the rules after the AFC Championship, so it was a new rules for the Super Bowl. Yes.
But my point is, do I think they even get to the Super... Do I think that Patriots team has the same success during the regular season and playoffs with or without the deflated football? Sure. But just because you didn't need to cheat doesn't mean...
I got one correction coming. They did not fumble
the ball
at home. No ever time in NFL history had that happen.
They had
So the ability to run with the ball that's flatter at home.
100%. I understand they had an edge. I get it. Like that. And people talk about, Brady's stats were no different. It was about ball security. It was about fumbling the football. But even if you want to say the Patriots would have won the exact same amount of games, the exact same amount of championships, with or without Spygate or Deflategate, whether or not your cheating was effective or necessary doesn't change that you cheated. And so will this follow them? Yeah, I mean, listen, they are the greatest dynasty in football history. They also, on two separate occasions, for two totally different things, have had the league come to them and say, that first-round draft pick is ours because you did something outside of the rules. Like, that is part of the football obituary for this team as well. It's not the lead paragraph of it, but it's part of it.
Yeah, that part will never go anywhere. I mean, those things have been proven out. Those things, they fought them as hard as they could. The best quarterback in football got suspended, just like I predicted on the day after the Indianapolis game. People ridiculed me. People told me I was crazy. I said Tom Brady will sit, and they end up suspending him. That's part of their history.
That's part of their history.
They were punished, and rightfully so, because they got caught cheating. All I'm simply saying is I can acknowledge that it's greatness that we're watching. When you look at Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, it's greatness. It's almost like the conversation that we have with the Hall of Fame baseball players, right? The Baseball Writers of America not putting Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens in, not wanting them to be first ballot Hall of Famers because of their link with PEDs. Okay, maybe they don't have the longevity, or maybe they don't have the gaudy statistics that they might have be able to amass without the PEDs, but they're still Hall of Fame baseball players. You understand what you're looking at. All I'm simply saying is this. I was on the team in 2014 that went to the Foxborough, to Gillette Stadium in the divisional round with the Baltimore Ravens. And I can tell you definitively that the deflated footballs didn't matter. Now, they ran a little shell game with eligible and ineligible receivers, and they changed the rules after that, but it was legal when they did it.
Yes.
All I'm simply saying is, when you look at the greatness of this coach, this head coach, and this quarterback, I don't think those two scandals define their legacies.
Back here on First Things First, time now for Say What? Chris Long is in his second straight Super Bowl, last year with the Patriots, this time suiting up for the Eagles. He decided to make the stakes of this game even more interesting. Take a listen to this.
But I also made a really dumb bet with my linebacker coach that I would get a portrait of his face if we won the Super Bowl. Ken Flagel. So look him up on Google. That's, hopefully I'll have a Ken Flagel tattoo.
No.
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 I like Chris Long. Got a lot of respect for him.
Look at
Yeah. We need to read up on him. Man, he's done a tremendous job this year. He's actually made a bet with his paychecks. He's donated his paychecks this season. He's done a tremendous job. Great, insightful guy. Now, he's a deep thinker. Now, I'm not your dad, but I know Howie not really happy with this one.
Man.
He's got a bunch of tattoos, though.
He's got a bunch of tattoos. None of them are another man's face.
Well, we don't know that.
I have reason to believe that none of them are someone else's face. Now, I know that is in vogue. This past offseason, Kevin Durant got Rick James and Tupac's faces tattooed on his leg. So maybe this is a new thing people are doing. We need to ask Howie. Howie's your guy. You need to ask Howie if he knew about this.
I'm just going to tell you, there's going to be some point in his life he's going to be a grandfather. And let me tell you what that dude's face and his chin's going to be. It's going to be like a church pew.
Wrapped around.
It's going to be like a church pew.
All right, let's talk about them, Eagles. Despite being the 1 seed and having a 13-3 record, and did I mention they're in the Super Bowl, they have been the underdogs in each of their playoff wins this season. And while the line has moved in their favor this week, they still aren't getting rid of their underdog mentality. But Tom Brady isn't buying into that narrative. Take a listen.
There's no underdogs in the Super Bowl. They're the first seed in the NFC, man. They're 13-3. They had an incredible season, so I don't buy into any of that.
Would anyone here be shocked if the Eagles beat the Patriots? Shocked?
Shocked? No, I wouldn't be shocked. Not after I saw how dominant they were, especially up front, offensive and defensive line in the NFC Championship game. I mean, that was a throttling of a team that I thought you could have made the argument was the most complete team in football, the Minnesota Vikings. And so, no, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think they'll win. I'm leaning towards the Patriots. I think the Patriots, maybe I'm just buying into the Tom Brady mystique and Kool-Aid watching too many episodes of Tom versus Time, but they do seem to have the edge in this game. But no, I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles win this football game.
The other two times the Patriots lost in the Super Bowl, they had a matchup like this, where their offensive line got overpowered by the New York Football Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles, Jim Schwartz, that 7-man rotation, they have the ability to duplicate exactly what the New York Football Giants did. Put pressure on Tom Brady, not only from the outside, but through the gut of the pocket. And if you hit Tom Brady, if they can get 9 to 10 hits on Tom Brady, they have a chance to win the game. Yeah, and no Super Bowl would I be shocked if a team won.
Can the defense win this game, or is Nick Foles going to have to do something similar to what he did in the championship game in order for them to have a real chance?
I don't think it's in any type of world. I don't even think Nick Foles and his family think that he can duplicate what he did in that game.
Okay.
You're not going to it's just not realistic. There is no path to victory without a complete game. They can't afford any mistakes in the kicking game. They have to take care of the ball. They have to win the turnover margin. They have to win the time of possession. Yeah. They have to get Tom Brady on the ground. So collective, there's no one thing that's important more than the other, because there's so many facets to the Patriots and who they are that if you try to concentrate on one, you're going to end up losing the game.
One thing that is really interesting to me, and our star researcher Dusty showed me this, and I couldn't
star
believe
not
it.
so bright.
Okay, though, listen, you're down on a lot of people right now. Dusty's still star to me. The Patriots have played 36 playoff games with Brady and Belichick, right? We know they're 27-9 in those 36 games. Against teams they had played in the regular season, they're 12-9. All of their losses come against teams they had played in the regular season. They are 15-0 in playoff games against teams that's the first time seeing them. That's a big enough sample. Both of those are basically a season's worth of games. They obviously didn't play the Eagles this regular season. So I don't know what edge, because you would think the better coach team would have the edge the second time around. But you think about it. Both Super Bowls they lost against the Giants. The Giants had played them in the regular season. When the Ravens had beaten them in the playoffs, they had played them in the regular season. When the Broncos beat them in the playoffs.
Why do you think that is?
I can't figure it. Because I would have thought the Patriots would be the team.
Sure.
They would be better off facing a team for the second time. But they are 15-0 in playoff games when they didn't play in the regular season. Just 12-9. It's just, when 60% as opposed to 100% when against a team that they didn't play in the regular season. Does it mean anything to you? It's fine if the answer is no.
Yeah, I can't draw a conclusion from it that I think is concrete enough to give to the fans.
Okay.
So.
All right. Hey, that guy, Tom Brady. Monday, he cut his weekly radio appearance on WEEI short because the host of another show on the station had referred to his daughter as, quote, an annoying little pissant. That host has been suspended by the station, and some are calling for him to be fired. Tom Brady is not among those people, saying he does not want the host fired, adding, quote, we all have careers and we all make mistakes. Nick, what was your reaction to this?
All right, so the reaction initially to the comment by the radio host. Obviously, it's an awful thing to say about a kid. It's a 5-year-old kid. I also, though, listen to the audio. And I try to think of myself, put myself in other people's positions. This is a young broadcaster on live radio on someone else's show, it sounded like, or where he is the sidekick on the show. The lead host seems to say, hey, what'd you think of the Tom versus Time? That's what this was in reference to. And the first show opens with Tom on the phone. And you hear his daughter, who's just a year older than my daughter, saying, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy.
All normal.
100%.
Goes on all day.
Of course. And the kid, who doesn't have a 5-year-old kid, says, the show opens with his kid, this annoying little pissant, trying to get him like that. He should be in trouble. He should be suspended. If Brady went hard on him, and said, no, I'm not coming back on that radio station as long as he's employed by that radio station, that effectively ends this young man's career. Now, I'm not an enormous fan of EEI. I'm not an enormous fan of the way they do radio and some of the things their hosts say on other shows on that network, including the show that Brady joins a lot. But I'm glad we are in a culture where everyone calls for people's jobs. On Twitter, on TV, it's always fire this guy, fire that guy. Yeah. And this young guy, I don't know anything about him. Maybe he's a bad guy. Maybe he's a good guy who made a mistake. I applaud Tom Brady for not beheading him in the street. He could have ended this guy's career. Now, maybe this guy will end his career on his own terms. But I think Brady was kind in this spot. And I give Tom Brady credit for that.
If you're going to use climate as we're in this climate where you say something, you lose your job and whatnot. We're in the same climate where anyone that's done this job more than 5 minutes has to know a couple things. One, kids are off limits. There's nothing good can come out of saying anything. I watch the same Tom Brady. Listen, that kid, my kids are annoying. I will just go ahead and say it. Mommy, Mom.
But we're allowed to say that about our own kids.
Our own kids.
Yeah,
I would never
That's not the
say
way
that.
things used to be.
Of course.
Society used to be a lot different.
But that's where we are right now.
Okay.
I would never say that about your kid. I just wouldn't, especially not in a public domain.
But let me tell you something.
Yeah.
If you're a public figure, Tom Brady's professional life has been totally private. But he merchandised that and sold it to Facebook. He put those cameras there. So for him, as a public figure, Tom Brady opened himself up. Now, I think it's amazing to let us see what he does. It looks like all the other great players that I've seen. But you know, as a public figure, the reason why you don't have your kids taking photographs of them and you don't have them involved in interviews because you don't want them to be part of the public. But when you do a documentary and you have cameras all around, they're going to pick up stuff. So Tom Brady's just like anyone else. Like, so for me, he opened himself up. Facebook, when he did that, like, you're opening yourself up for all types of criticism. Now, the guy didn't say anything that was incriminating. You know, he could have had a little more class, and especially knowing that Tom Brady is a guest and how they do the program at WEEI and how it's always slanted to the Patriots. Like, I know this guy didn't think this was going to be a good thing. So, Tom, it was nice that he didn't have to do that because it's a young guy. But when you sell something that make your life a public, for public display, you open yourself up, and that's what he did. He opened himself up to his family, and there's going to be more things said about Tom because we're going to know more about Tom.
And Jenna, you mentioned if you do this for 5 minutes, I want to let you know from a guy that did local radio for a long time. There are local radio stations, shows across America in major markets. They don't follow the rules on clearing sound. They don't follow all the FCC rules. You're on a
trying to
night
get
show.
started.
They're trying. And there are so many things. While I don't think there was ever anything about someone's kid, there are so many things that the moment I said them, I was like, oh, God, please don't let someone be rolling on that. That you want to pull back, but you can't.
Totally understand that. But you also have to know that they're in bed with the Patriots, and they have this relationship none of the other local radio stations in town have.
Right.
And that is a coveted relationship that you want to hold on to dearly and cherish and mold and, like, turn into something. So you're right. Maybe you don't always have the right decisions or the great conscience to know whether you say something good or not about kids. You do know that you do not talk about in any disparaging way.
That's why he got suspended, right?
And I agree. And I don't think he should be fired. And I really appreciate the way Tom Brady handled it. I just thought and think kids are off limits.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, let's move on. So, speaking of, I was playing ball with my...
You and Nick got some bad kids.
No, I... Listen,
okay? Now suspend me.
You'll appreciate
Them mugs is B-A-D.
Okay, you know what?
Goodness gracious.
Okay.
All caps, exclamation.
Jenna was playing with one of her bad kids
So I was playing with my 4-year-old yesterday, and I threw her the ball, and she caught it, but she dropped it as she was falling to the ground. And while I felt bad saying this, I told her, hey, Harper, that wasn't a catch. And it didn't go well. So after years of discussion, thank you, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell is revisiting the catch rule, much of it stemming from a play in which Steelers tight end Jesse James was ruled to have dropped a potential game-winning touchdown against the New England Patriots. And then another overtime touchdown by Kevin Benjamin a week later. Goodell discussed his concern on the Herd yesterday. Take a listen.
I'm not just somewhat concerned, I am concerned. We just had 5 Hall of Fame receivers and several coaches come in just 2 weeks ago to focus on the catch-no-catch rule. You want there to be clarity from an officiating standpoint, a coaching and a player standpoint. They know what it is, what it isn't. I think here you might have clarity in a large element of it, but then what happens is it's not the rule that people really want.
So last week, Goodell held a meeting with a handful of Hall of Fame receivers and coaches to discuss, and our very own Chris Carter was one of them. So, CZ, if you will, take us into that meeting and give us a little perspective on what was discussed and how it was all brought to.
And if I may tell the audience real quick, if you guys were watching a few Wednesdays ago and we were kind of cagey about it, we're like, Chris has to go. It's an important meeting. That's what the meeting was. That's where it was. So it was 2 Wednesdays. It was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. Go ahead.
For NFL fans, they should be very, very happy if you enjoy watching the game, because what they're trying to do is simplify it and make it better for the fans so that almost every aspect of the game fans understand, and they understand it enough that they know what they're watching. When they're watching high school football, they realize the rules are different. Watching college football, they realize the rules are different. They realize that we should have a level of expertise and professionalism in catching the ball that should be more difficult than college or high school. So the conundrum in doing that is either through verbiage And the hardest part is how do you survive the ground? That's the hardest part that Bill will try to get through. People think that you shouldn't have to survive the ground. The ground is actually the surface that you're playing on, so it's not as if you're elevated above the ground. It is a huge element to playing football. But for our fans, and there be such different views on what was a catch, because I know what a catch is, like it's been explained, but I adopted all the rules of surviving the ground. People, they think they know what a catch is, but they don't believe in all the rules. If you believe in the rules as far as surviving the ground, these replays become a lot easier. That right there, Kelvin Benjamin, he just got possession of the ball, so his left foot was off the ground. We watched video after video after video. Jesse James, he was falling. Bill Cowher and myself had a huge discussion and debate on he thought that was an athletic move. And I told him, man, any guy can get knocked off a bar stool. Falling is not an athletic move. So we went back and forth, back and forth. Roger is very concerned about the fans and their inability to understand the game in real time. Now, we also know that technology, even though it is our friend, it hurts in the replay because it reveals so much in so many slow frames that it's really hard for a guy in real time, a referee, to get, because he doesn't have that look. He's making it right now. It's a bang-bang play, and the refs are doing a better job of it. But I think some of the verbiage, some of the language will be changed, and I believe as far as surviving the ground, that will probably be the biggest difference in the new rule change.
I know that you don't know this for certain, but in your gut, if the Jesse James play happens next year, that play specifically. The Kelvin Benjamin one's different because that was about whether or not his foot was on the ground once he had control. But Jesse James, there's no question if he was inbounds, out of bounds. It was all about going to the ground and whether he survived the ground. In your gut, will the Jesse James play be a touchdown next year?
I mean, I hope not, but we're still in the preliminary stages. It still has to be tweaked. Like, I hope not, because the ball, not only did he go to the ground, but the ball moved. It's not a matter of crossing the plane because he didn't have possession. You know, he didn't have the ball, a foot, or one body part, and time. He didn't have all those things. So it's irrelevant to me that the ball, when his left hand comes off the ball, when he goes over the end zone, see his left hand come off the ball moved. So he actually benefited from the ground.
What can be tough in that spot, and I just wonder if this is one of the things, I don't know if it was brought up in the meeting or not, so you tell me. What's tough for fans in this spot is if you're a running back, the play's over the moment right there. The moment the ball crosses the plane, we see guys all the time on running plays dive over the top of the pile.
One thing we're trying to do, too, is a lot like New England. We're trying to stop guys from reaching for the pylon. Those are bad football fundamentals. And we're not going to reward someone in professional football for bad football fundamentals. New England teaches this. Catch the ball, tuck the ball away. Do not extend for the goal line. And realizing that it is more complicated once you go to the ground. So we're not going to make it easier to catch the football, and we're not going to compromise what we believe is the toughest. It's the toughest way to catch a ball is pro football. We're not going to make it easier. We're just going to try to make fans understand it better so when they see it in real time, they know actually what the difference is.
With 5 Hall of Famers in that meeting, did everyone want the rule changed?
I'm not going to say, like, if they want the rule changed.
Do you want the rule changed?
What I want is irrelevant. What I want is fans to be able to enjoy the skill of catching the ball. But what I'm not going to compromise making it easier. All right? It's the National Football League. Guys are being paid a lot of money. This football is the largest football built in the world. They partnered with Wilson. This is what we decided to use. This ball without a stripe, like college, becomes even harder. The CFL, it's smaller. High school, the ball is smaller. So we have decided this is what we're going to play with. And if we're going to keep playing with this football, catching it and the fans understanding what's a catch, what not is a catch, becomes very, very important. So I think it's premature to say what I want. I think what's going to happen is fans will be pleased with the game that they see. If fans are pleased with what they see, I'll be happy because the game that I love will continue to grow.
Earlier this season, we all headed to Columbus for the big game between Penn State and Ohio State. CC was kind of a big deal on campus.
Yeah, Pep makes the show.
As was fellow OSU alum and Hall of Famer Orlando Pace. You can see them both right here. And joining us live from Minneapolis is Orlando Pace. Hey, Orlando, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're good.
We are
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much for getting up and hanging out with us this morning. So I'll start off with this. You and the Rams, greatest show on turf. You guys faced off against Tom Brady in Super Bowl 36. Did you ever think he would still be playing at this level 16 years later?
You know what? I didn't. Obviously, when we played him in Super Bowl 36, he was just a backup quarterback. We went into that game thinking, he's a backup quarterback. We thought we were going to go ahead and finish it. But we actually started that dynasty, that Patriots dynasty. It was a tough game. We kind of ran out of time there towards the end. But, that's where his legacy really started in the NFL. And it's amazing what he's done for 16 years to play at that level. And it's really incredible to watch.
So you mentioned that Tom Brady at the time was a backup quarterback, and I'm not at all trying to compare Nick Foles to Tom Brady, but Nick Foles right now is a backup quarterback. You obviously played in 2 Super Bowls. One was against Steve McNair, who that year might have won the MVP. I know was an MVP caliber player at quarterback, and then a game against what you called a backup quarterback. What's the difference was there a difference in the team's fine focus, attention to detail, anything going into the 2 different games, given the caliber of quarterback, at least what you thought was the caliber of quarterback in each of them?
Well, it's a mindset. We were that year at Super Bowl 36, we had an opportunity to play the Patriots earlier that year, and we won the game. And kind of going, we were heavy favorites going into that game, and with the backup quarterback and our confidence, I wouldn't say we took it for granted, but we did go out. We played our game. We, obviously had a good game plan against us, and then, like I said, time just ran out against us. I hate talking about that Super Bowl a little bit, only because obviously it's tough to recover. Even years later, it's still you're still a little bitter as a player.
Well, Orlando, you've gone on to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, one of my teammates forever, also a former Buckeye. Let's talk about from a strategy attack standpoint. Since you don't want to relive those Super Bowl memories, I can understand that. Everyone talks about the defensive front of the Philadelphia Eagles and their ability to have a 7-man rotation. What type of problem does that create, not only for Tom Brady, but for you as an offensive lineman?
Well, obviously, as an offensive line, in preparation for that week, Chris, you got to prepare for those 7 guys, and the thing that'll be difficult is when later in the game, when those guys are bringing those guys with fresh legs in, and as an offensive lineman, you're blocking those guys, and you got another guy coming in on 3rd down with fresh legs. That makes a difference in that 4th quarter in trying to put pressure on Tom Brady. So I think with the Eagles, it gives them flexibility to try to move that pocket. I mean, put pressure on Brady and have him move in the pocket a little bit. But, obviously it'll be a tough challenge because that offensive line, the Patriots offensive line did a great job against Jacksonville last week in that 4th quarter when they had some beast up front as well.
Orlando, I want to go back to talking about Nick Foles for a second. A lot of questions surrounding which Nick Foles we're going to see. The Nick Foles who took over for Carson Wentz in those few weeks after he went down, or the Nick Foles that was lights out in the championship game. There's a lot of people that are going to be asking him a lot of questions. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of nerves. Do you think Nick Foles can make enough plays to get this done on Sunday?
Well, I think it depends on how he manages this week and if this moment isn't too big for him. Obviously, with the Patriots, they've been in this position many times before, but this is the first time for Nick Foles, and he has to go out and play the same way he played last week against the Vikings to have success. If he plays that way, they have a great chance of winning, but he can't let the moment overwhelm him of being here in Minneapolis in the Super Bowl.
All right, Orlando, I feel badly because I made you talk about a bad Super Bowl memory, so now I'm going to try to make up for it by asking you about a great Super Bowl memory. The year you guys won the Super Bowl, I do believe in the divisional round you beat my good friend and partner Chris Carter in order to get to the conference championship game. Yeah, no bitterness on that side of the table at all. But then in that game, it's a classic game. I was fortunate. I was young, but I was at that football game between the Rams and the Titans. I know what I was was thinking, Orlando, watching Steve McNair drive the field at the end of the game. You're an offensive lineman. You're powerless in the moment. You're trying to win your first championship. Can you tell me the emotions you're going through watching that final drive? You're on the sideline, Dick Vermeil's there, and then as you see Kevin Dyson extend, can you just walk me through all the emotions during the drive, and then once you realize, oh, he's short and we're world champions?
Wow. Once you look at that final drive, Nick, you see, obviously Steve McNair, and it just seemed like the Patriots with Eddie George, the Titans with Eddie George, they seemed like they got stronger during that drive. Eddie was running the ball. Steve was like Superman. We couldn't get him down to the ground. So every play, you're literally living and dying with every play. But he battled, and they were battle tested. And that last play, I'm on the sideline, and I'm just looking to see if he got in. But our defense, Mike Jones, did a great job making that tackle a yard away from those guys, tying it up and going into overtime.
Orlando, thanks again for joining us. I'm going to take you back to your 12-year career with the Rams. The resurgence of the L.A. Rams. Like, what has it done for that community? And also, what has it done for the alumni base that is split up? Half of you guys played in St. Louis. The other half played in Los Angeles or Anaheim. What has it done to galvanize that organization? Seeing this bright young coach, they got a good quarterback, they got Todd Gurley. It seems like there was a great amount of unity that was brought back to this organization this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime as alumni, and Chris, you know this, when your pro ball club does well, it makes you feel good. You can wear your apparel, you can do all that. So I can wear my Rams apparel and all that. But obviously in the offseason, I got a chance to go out and spend some time in L.A. with Sean and his football mind. He's so bright, and I knew he would do great things this year and develop golf and that offense. And they were incredible this year. I love to see the turnaround, and I look to see bigger and better things from them because they're such a young team and they're a talented team. So I look forward to seeing great things from them in the future.
Orlando, now since you're in the hall, so now everyone makes you an expert. So it's like you have a vote to be able to put people in. I know in talking to you privately, a guy that both of us really respect. Now, the wide receiver list is stacked. They got Randy Moss on the list for the first year. They got T.O. on the list for the third year. Now, in being through this process, Isaac Bruce is definitely a Hall of Famer. What's your feelings about Ike and his chances of eventually getting into the Hall and joining you and I as teammates?
Well, obviously, hopefully it's this year, but I got an up-close personal view of his career. My locker is right next to his, so I know what type of effort he put in. I know what type of pro he was in his career and what type of teammate he was. And obviously, he is Hall of Fame worthy, and I can't wait till he put on that gold jacket and get that bus someday. Hopefully, it's this year. If not, whenever he does it, I'll be the first one there to hug him and congratulate him and be extremely proud of him.
Orlando, I'm putting you on the spot. Best pass rusher you ever faced?
Wow, it's tough. People ask me that all the time, and I never want to give defensive linemen credit. But, they're all tough. And, you know what I mean? Somebody will be at home like, yeah, I knew I was the toughest guy. No, but, they're all tough. And I would have to, there's so many guys that early on in my career that gave me challenges, but I can honestly say I got them all back once I got a little older and started playing really good football. So I don't want to give anybody that much credit.
We need a name, Orlando. We need a name, buddy. We need a name.
I know. There's some guys. No, there's some real guys. There's some guys that obviously the Bruce Smiths of the world, the Chris Domans of the world, those guys that were veterans when I played.
You better mention the Hall of Famers or you'll be in trouble.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So, hey, Chris, that's what I go to every time. I got to mention the Hall of Famers. Well, they were a challenge, but, yeah, they're also a Hall of Famer, too. So,
if you don't want to give a guy credit, we can just go the other way. Who's the most overrated, overhyped bum you ever pancaked right out of the stadium? Give me a name there.
Oh, no, there's some names. No, there's some real names in there, too. But I don't want to disclose that either.
All right, so here's a thing that is, I guess, hotly contested in some quarters, not amongst me. I watched Ohio State in the late 90s. I saw a man who set the record for pancake blocks, who should have won the Heisman, Danny Werfel. Danny Werfel, come on. So I saw that, and then I saw you go on to instantly become the best left tackle in the NFL. So I have a feeling on this question, but I'm going to ask you, who's the best NFL player Ohio State's ever produced?
Easy now.
Ooh, that's tough, man. There's so many great players, and Chris, you know this. And, obviously, the best NFL player. Is that a setup question between you and Chris? Chris Carter. I'm going to be smart on here. Chris Carter is the guy.
Pace, I didn't even have anything to do with the questions, bro. They have everything to do with all this. Hey, Face, Nick asked me this question when we were at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I told him Orlando Pace. Like, I thought you were the greatest Buckeye from the first day you stepped on the field at Ohio State, start knocking dudes off the football field, and then continue that on into pro football. So, no, has nothing to do with me, big dog.
But hold on, he keeps your names.
I appreciate that, Chris.
Your name's Orlando Pace. He keeps calling you Face. I feel like the audience is going to want to know where this nickname came from. So come on, let us know. Let us know, Orlando. Come on.
I have no idea.
CC?
Oh.
That's just a nickname. We just call him Face.
Okay. Like, look at the face.
Look how cute is it?
Oh, he's so cute.
I mean, he's a giant with a smile like that. Look at that.
What else would you want to call him besides Face?
Fair enough.
Hey, Face.
There you go.
You're here on behalf of Kay Jewelers. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with them.
Well, I'm here, and Chris, you know this as well. Kay Jewelers is the official jewelry store of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Chris, I have a little surprise for you. I actually have your ring right here. It's Kay Jewelers, your Hall of Fame ring right here. Oh, my goodness. It's a replica here. So this is the Chris Carter ring. I think we're going to raffle this off somewhere here in Minneapolis. But, no, it's fun. But Kay's obviously here, and fellas, with Valentine's Day right around the corner. Kay is wanting every fella to get their special someone a great gift, and they're trying to win Valentine's Day this year. So we're here supporting that, and obviously with the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well.
Orlando, thank you so much. From Nick and Jenna and I, thanks for joining the show. I'll see you out in Minneapolis on Thursday. That's my city. Let me buy you dinner there. Also,
it's expensive.
Can you talk to the people at Kay Jeweler? Because I got someone special in my life. I need one of those pendants. I don't need a ring. I got a ring. I need one of those pendants for a necklace. Okay?
Well, let me talk to somebody. I'll see what I can do, Chris.
This is unbelievable.
Free stuff.
Thank you, Orlando. Thank you so much. Here we go, Broussard. The Detroit Pistons looked at the standings yesterday, 4 games under 500 in the East, with a decision to make now or not. They chose now, and they went shopping for Clippers all-star power forward Blake Griffin. All the Pistons had to give up was Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a first and second round draft pick, and a ton of Dennis Rodman merchandise. Chris, what do you think of the move? Good for Detroit?
Look, different franchises are in different stages or cycles, okay? Mm-hmm. What you want if you don't win a championship, or besides a championship, you want a 5 to 7 year run of relevancy.
Okay.
Where you're one of those 6 teams or so that's mentioned as being elite, as a possible contender. The Clippers were in that phase with their big 3, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. They're coming out of it. So now they've been there, done that, and they're saying, let's go to another phase and rebuild, okay? The Pistons are in a rebuild. They're coming out of a rebuilding phase where one time in the last 9 years they've made the playoffs. Okay, so now they're saying, let's just get relevant. And in the Eastern Conference with Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin, I'm not a huge fan of his game, but Reggie Jackson, there's your 3. They're thinking, if not this year they're going to try to make the playoffs, but they're thinking in the Eastern Conference, why can't we be a second-round playoff team consistently with these guys for the length of Blake's contract?
And the potential
that's what they're playing
of not
for.
Knowing what's going to happen in Cleveland, I think might have spurred this type of move.
If LeBron leaves,
you can boot up and be like, man, Philadelphia and Toronto and Boston, that's our competition. We're in the mix. I could understand that.
Is he going to win them a title? No. But they're going to be relevant.
And the hopes that, hey, maybe next year, maybe the next time we have a first-round pick, even if we're in the playoffs, it's Donovan Mitchell. You know what I mean? Maybe we don't have to maybe for our third player with Drummond and Blake, we can find them late in the draft like the Jazz did with Donovan Mitchell. I know that wasn't in the 20s, but still.
They got to draft a little bit better because they passed over some good players.
Absolutely right.
Luke Kennard's my homeboy. I played with his uncle in high school. He's from the Middletown area. I mean,
they passed over Donovan Mitchell to get
Donovan Mitchell.
But that was
they've made some mistakes.
They've made some mistakes, and that is the other part of this. Stan Van Gundy, my guy. I love what he stands for. I think he's a good coach. There is also you've got to look at, cui bono, who benefits here. Stan Van Gundy, 5 years, $35 million, the contract he signed to not only be the head coach of that team, but to be the general manager of that team.
Yeah.
And they made the playoffs in year 2, right? Year 3, last year, they took a step back. They are mired in an 8-game losing streak. If they don't make the playoffs this year and didn't make this move, he doesn't see year 5. I think he's fired in the offseason. And so what you sometimes see with somewhat desperate front office guys is, listen, I know long-term this might not work out, but if it doesn't work out, I won't be here to deal with it anyway. And you can justify it by saying, listen, right now, how many players in the league are giving you at least 22 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists a night? It's LeBron, Russ, KD, Boogie, and Blake. So when he's on the court, he's still highly productive.
Yeah.
The downside is he's making $35 million a year for the next 5 seasons, and he has a terrible injury history. That's the concern. They didn't give up too much, but if he's hurt, it's the contract that'll be the albatross around their neck.
Stan Van Gundy is a very good coach. He should just be a coach.
Yeah.
He should not be president because the president's job is to think long term.
Correct.
Look at Lawrence Frank, what he's doing now with the Clippers. The coach's job is to win now. Even if you tell the coach, look, we'll give you time. The coach is always thinking, I want to win right now.
And the coach is in the locker room with the players. And all the players want to win now. So there's always a conflict when you have those dual roles.
Yep. You call what the Clippers doing rebuilding, even if they are freeing up cap space for a guy maybe like LeBron or
they
one
ain't
of these
getting LeBron.
big.
They're not getting and they know it. But they've been told they ain't getting LeBron.
So there will be a bevy of big-time free agents available to them. I mean, do you still call it rebuilding? Is that exactly what they're doing?
I mean, of course they're going to try to get
catch of free agents is in 2 years.
Yeah.
Not this summer.
Okay, so they still have more moves
Boogie
to do,
Cousins, who knows what now.
It's tough with a big man with an Achilles.
Exactly. LeBron, I don't think they get LeBron. Paul George, I mean, he wants to be a Laker, not a Clipper.
Hold on. You mentioned someone, Jenna mentioned LeBron, and I don't want to gloss over it. So people look to LeBron, and the city of Los Angeles owns 2 homes. They're worth almost $50 million. The business enterprises, that next phase of his career, all that stuff.
Lifestyle.
Right, all of it. You believe, you're
I've been
telling
told
me
he'll never be a Clipper.
Okay. Well,
could something change? Maybe, but a few months ago I was told he will never be a Clipper.
If LeBron goes to the Clippers, or if he even had consideration for the Clippers, he's changed his how I get to home. All right? He said he's chasing after the ghost of Michael Jordan. You don't go to the Clippers. Matter of fact, if you go to the Clippers, you will see a few ghosts, and they will be real. Because that's what the Clippers and the organization the last 40 years has done.
Well, that's
not 4 years. 40 years.
Well, I just want the audience to take in what Chris Broussard said. Chris Broussard, who for my money is the best NBA television analyst in America as far as understanding the game and being connected to the league, is saying LeBron to the Clippers is a non-issue. Was
there a lot of people that thought they were in the game?
When they brought in Jerry West,
absolutely.
But I've been told this post Jerry West that LeBron, he's just not going to be a Clipper. Now, again, you never know with LeBron, but I've been told that by people close to this situation.
No, I think, Cece, I think you're underselling that this year with the Jerry West being there and then the Lakers having so many struggles, people started to say, well, if LeBron wants to get to L.A., there are 2 teams there. The Lakers they're not as good as they thought they would be. It looks like Paul George is going to stay in Oklahoma City. So people were drawing lines. Now, they might have been uninformed lines. I wasn't reporting anything on it. I'm not a reporter. That's why I wanted to ask Chris. So I think that is relevant information. information.
The Clippers are no closer than the Lakers, really. And you could argue, I mean, they don't have the talent now that the Lakers have. Yeah, the young talent.
Are the Clippers done? I mean, you have Lou Williams, you have DeAndre Jordan, you have another couple of guys that they may want to move.
A week ago, they're saying we're only giving up DeAndre if we get, as far as Cleveland, if we get that number 1 pick that Cleveland has from Brooklyn, or that first round pick, that lottery pick. If I'm Cleveland, I'm not giving that up.
There's no way.
No way I'm giving that up.
It don't make sense.
No. To what? Get DeAndre and assure that we win the East? You're not beating Golden State.
Hold on. If you want your best chance of keeping LeBron, your best chance of keeping LeBron is to not only make the finals but compete in the finals. If you get DeAndre and Lou Williams for
who? For Isaiah Thomas?
I'll tell you exactly how the contracts match up. For Tristan Thompson, the Channing Frye expiring deal or the Iman Shumpert deal, either one of them works, or you could do all three, and the Nets pick. You have to include the Nets pick.
Why would I give up the Nets pick?
Because the Nets pick right now, maybe it's 4th, but right now it'd be 7th. And the idea, the whole goal for Cleveland should be to keep LeBron James, not planning for life after LeBron.
We don't know what LeBron's going to do.
Right.
They have no idea. Look, when they drafted Kyrie Irving in 2011, that number 1 pick was slotted 8th. When they drafted Anthony Bennett in 2014, that what became the number 1 pick was slotted 9th. So it could, this 7th pick, everybody's like, oh, it's 7, it's 10. It could end up being number 1. This is a deep draft at the top of the lottery. If they can get a top 5 pick, who knows? One of these kids, Trae Young, the kid from Arizona, Bagley from Duke. And LeBron may be one of those young guys, if they get a top pick, maybe that's something he looks at and says, you know what? Maybe that'll keep him. There's no way I give it up.
Love Chris Broussard.
Now that the NBA season is heating up, I wanted to talk about another podcast we do at Fox Sports, and that's Chris Broussard's In the Zone. Each week, Chris breaks down what's trending in the NBA and the biggest names in the league. Previous guests include Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaq, John Wall, and myself. So if you love the NBA, make sure to subscribe to In the Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to First Things First. Chris Broussard is back with us. How'd you spend your time off?
Good to see you, brother.
Since the last segment.
With Chris Candy. We get in there, we get in some deep conversation. We fixed the Knicks in the green room.
Oh, wow.
See, now, that is
Scott
productive.
Perry hit me up.
Oh,
that is productive. I like that. Not
Just
a waste
like that.
of time.
It was that simple.
Beautiful.
I got Scott Perry's number. We can do that.
There we go.
Love it. All right, let's talk about the big Blake Griffin trade from last night. The move did two things. It forced Blake to break out his winter wear, and it freed up a ton of cap space for the Clippers. Why the need for cap space? Some think it's to make a push for a guy named LeBron, despite what Chris Broussard said a little earlier. LeBron will be the biggest name available in free agency this summer. While there are 30 teams who want him, there are only a few we think he's considering: Cavs, Lakers, Rockets, Spurs. And now, according to reports, maybe the Clippers are trying to make a run at him. Chris, you said LeBron's not going to sign with the team. Where do you think he will sign?
Yeah, look, LeBron respects a good front office. So Jerry West's presence there could theoretically help, but like I said,
you can't say that and shake your head a little bit like this.
I was told a few months ago he's not going to be a Clipper. So we'll see what.
So
let's cross them
the
out.
places where he.
If we
no
cross them out,
Clippers.
first of all, it's what does LeBron want to do? I'm going to assume he wants to win. So if he wants to win, I have always said the Spurs would be the best place because of Greg Popovich. He's one of those great, iconic coaches. LeBron's had good coaches, not one of those guys, okay? I think he could win more titles with Popovich, Kawhi, and LaMarcus Aldridge. The problem is Kawhi's future in San Antonio is in flux. So now they have to move down on the list.
You saw, by the way, just real quick, you saw LeBron shouted out Popovich on Twitter yesterday.
He loves Pop.
Yeah, he
called him the
always
greatest.
has.
Wished him happy birthday. Called him the greatest coach ever.
The people he gets compared to, MJ, Shaq, Duncan, Kobe, they never won a ring without a Pat Riley, Greg Popovich, or Phil Jackson. LeBron could use that coach who has the credibility to be like, this is the way we're doing it.
Right. And
This
if
is
you
the
look at
best way to do
LeBron's first final in Cleveland against San Antonio, the amount of respect LeBron had, they got crushed. But the two battles in Miami, I live in Miami. I have season tickets. The amount of respect on the court for both teams, like it's a lot different than it is now with Cleveland and Golden State. How LeBron feels about Popovich, and it's one of those things, too, that he's made very, very public. And also, I believe that was the important part of USA Basketball, was Pop taking over USA Basketball from Coach K. So I see it, this is a relationship that has existed in a great deal of respect on both sides.
I just, unfortunately, and you know LeBron and his guys, I don't see him going to San Antonio, just the city. I see him more of a big market, glamour city, unless it's Cleveland, his hometown.
So let's tick down the list.
Houston, I think if he wants to win, to me right now, it looks like Houston would give you your best shot. The problem there, and you know Daryl Morey well, they'd have to get rid of a lot of their shooters.
Yes.
Maybe Clint Capella. And that would be tough to, I mean, you have a nice big three, obviously, but if you don't have the shooting around it, it might be tough to beat Golden State. The Lakers, I like him going there with Paul George, but George is saying everything to make you think if he stays on. See, I think LeBron made a mistake. Last summer, they could have got Paul George for Kyrie in a trade. George has an option to become a free agent this summer. He doesn't have to. George was willing to waive that option and stay in Cleveland next year if LeBron had been willing to stay at least another year. LeBron wasn't willing to commit. You could have had 2 years to compete with Paul George for titles, and the landscape in 2019 would have been better. You would have known what the Lakers' young guys are, at least more than you will this summer.
Yes.
You would have been able to look at Philadelphia and say, you know what, Embiid now has played 2 seasons where he's been healthy. You could go there because that's a good look. If you go this summer, you don't know if the big guy can stay healthy.
By the way, LeBron still could have that option. He could sign another 1-year deal. You know what I mean?
But you won't have Paul George.
Yeah,
that's my problem.
It wouldn't be a smart move to be able to do it now. He should have done it last year.
So I talked to, I'm not in the inside the way you are, but I talked to an NBA front office guy 2 weeks ago who said he believed the Rockets are the leaders, the Cavs are in second, the Lakers have fallen to a distant third.
Because he thinks George.
This was before the Paul George stuff. It was just because the Lakers, they weren't trending. You know, Lonzo is not trending, and Ingram hasn't taken a big leap. It was just that there wasn't enough stability there. And the other team that was mentioned to me was Philly. It was described as a non-zero chance. Like, it's not like they're a leading contender, but the possibility exists. What I find interesting, and I just think people should consider it when they're thinking in their head, why would LeBron go out west? Why would he go to the tougher conference? There are 2 knocks on LeBron's resume. One is fair, one is not. The fair one is the Maverick series. People can be able to kill him for that forever. It is as big of a meltdown as a Pantheon player's ever had in any sport. Like, I say that as that is the other one is an unfair one, but it's the one used more often. And it's the finals record. People say, 3-5 in the finals. Disregarding that, the 07 finals, it was a hell of an accomplishment. The first one against the Warriors, hell of an accomplishment. If he goes out west, what he essentially guarantees himself is no more finals losses. If you make the finals out of the West, you're going to win the title. And so you obviously wouldn't get there as many times. But if he stays in the East, if he stays with Cleveland and goes to Philly, 3-5 could become 4-7. 4-8. You know what I mean? Like that's, and people do math weird. They would rather you lose early in the playoffs when we're talking legacies than lose in the championship round. I think it's absurd.
Let me ask you this, in basketball, because a great player has more influence on the game than any other sport. So we have seen the dominant players get multiple championships. So the comparison with LeBron and that, it's fair. It's not like Peyton Manning, losing in the divisional round a couple times. Like, getting to the finals, it is an accomplishment. But when you are a basketball player, the greatest ones have won more in the finals because they can dominate the game. One great player can win a series.
Right, but let me ask you this. Would it be better for LeBron, in your opinion, or and what you think most people feel, to say he goes to the West and he never gets to the finals again, and he ends up being 3-5 in the finals? Or to stay in the East and you go, say, 2 or 3 more times and you end up 3-7 or 3-8 in the finals?
Oh, no more loss in the finals do him any good.
So you think it'd be better to go to the West even if you don't get back to the finals?
Absolutely.
Hold
on. Let me ask a question slightly different way. What do you think would be more for LeBron right now? He has 3 rings, right?
Yeah.
Would you be more impressed if he were 3-0 right now in the finals? Had only been there 3 times. If he'd only been there, the only times he had made the finals were the 2 years they won in Miami and the 1 year they won in Cleveland.
Yeah, you can't take away the totality of 5 other trips.
Okay, so we agree then, because I
mean that's one extreme. Like you went from he's 3-5, okay he's 3-0. Which one? I'd rather him be 3-3.
Yeah,
3-3. But hold on, but why though? Because that means those 2 years.
Because you just created an exercise that was only for your benefit.
The Eastern Conference is a bad conference.
It was sure, but if he had missed the finals, it would have meant he lost in the Eastern Conference, right?
Yeah,
in the bad conference.
Yeah, but so he would have been losing to a team that wasn't as good as him. All right, so that would have been held against him too.
So, but then we're actually saying the same thing. I just think when people bring up the finals losses, that what they are disregarding is that. So people are like, oh, Kobe was 5-2, for example. You don't want to give the guy credit for the years they lost in the first round, for the years they didn't make the playoffs. But hey, you didn't get a finals loss that year. They do that with the math there.
So what's the most important thing, do you think, for LeBron James? What's the most important thing for him? Is it the lifestyle? Is it the rings? Is it longevity? Is it he wants to just play basketball? Or is it, like you said when we started, does he want to go play with a great coach, go play with Pop?
I'm going to assume it's winning. I'm going to assume
everything that they've said, his management, his boys, LeBron, everything they've said is about championships. It's when you're an NBA player and you have the type of wealth that LeBron has, lifestyle is anywhere. I mean,
so then that takes
he's
LA out of it.
I mean, he could
go there with Paul George.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, there's no place LeBron's going. And I actually think the one place LeBron could go, and I would say, you know what? They are on par with the Warriors, would be San Antonio.
Yes.
With Kawhi, LaMarcus, and LeBron.
There's real questions about Kawhi's
If he
health.
goes, true, but I'm assuming Kawhi would be healthy and that he was going to stay in San Antonio. Even if he goes to Houston and you lose Eric Gordon, Trevor Ariza, Clint Capella.
Which you have to do.
I mean, that would be a great team because those are 3 tremendous players. But chemistry is so important, and that's what the Warriors have more than anybody else.
If it's just about winning, if you were advising him, and all I cared about winning, you would tell him to go where?
San Antonio.
Assuming Kawhi's healthy in San Antonio.
See, and I think it's Houston. I think Houston is better.
Why?
I think Houston's better equipped. Because I think Harden is flatly better than Kawhi, and I know CP3 is better than LaMarcus.
What about chemistry?
What?
I think
so you're losing all those,
I don't think you're losing Clint Capella. You are losing 3-point shooters. I think 3-point shooters will follow LeBron. I think you can always find shooters on older veteran shooters that will come to play with LeBron, especially in a city like Houston. I think Houston is better positioned and doesn't have, I think, a legitimate health and chemistry concern that right now exists in San Antonio.
Well, I think the chemistry is just how do you get – and I didn't think Chris Paul and Harden would work this well together. So I was wrong on that.
Kawhi would change his tune, him and his uncle, if they knew LeBron was coming to San Antonio. Like one of Kawhi's biggest problem with San Antonio is he realizes that they're having a hard time attracting other guys. And that's got him a little tight right now.
How about this? How about if Houston wins this year? I'm giving him like a 25% chance.
Then he can't go
If they
there.
win,
then he can't
so
go
where
there.
does he go?
If Houston wins this year,
and George stays in OKC.
You know what he should do? He should sign with Golden State for the minimum. Do what Durant
Are you
did.
serious?
That's what they need to get over the top.
You're not serious.
Durant did it. It's
there
fine
is
now.
he cannot do that.
I'm Jenna Wolf, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.